Pull the lever, Kronk.
Wrong lever!
Welcome back, spooky friends, to episode 5 of Crypts and Corks. I'm your host, DJ, here with my co-host,
Paul.
And, we've got a good episode for you this week. Paul, how was your week?
You know, my week was cool or whatever, but I have to get right into it because I have some beef.
Oh, no. Is it with me?
No.
Oh, Jesus. Thank
No,
God.
you're lucky this week. But it's actually, I have beef with Uber Eats. So basically, what happened was I changed my location on Uber Eats to my work address, right? Because we just got a Raising Cane's here in Pittsburgh, so I wanted to see if they delivered, which of course they didn't, which, whatever. But I go to order food last night and I didn't change my location. And I order the food, and then I realized after I order it, it's to the wrong address. So I try and cancel it, and they're like, okay, you can cancel, but we're going to charge you $28 to cancel.
Jesus.
Or you can change your address for an extra $1.
Okay, but how much was the total order?
The order was like $30.
So they were going to charge you for the order to cancel.
Exactly. Like, what is a girl supposed to do in that moment? Jesus. Like, of course I got the extra $1 because, like, I'm not giving Uber Eats $30. But these, like, food delivery apps, they're crazy. And it's like you order $12 of food, comes out to like $28.
Yeah, I mean, like, there have been plenty of times where I have gotten out for drinks for a night, we get back, and we'll order Uber, and, like, we'll order, like, 2 McDonald's meals, which is, like, $15 if you go through the drive-thru. But then it comes out to, like, $35, $40.
Right. And it's like, I'm going to pay it because, like, the thought of leaving my house when I'm already comfortable is simply unbearable. It's not going to happen. But they're taking advantage of us either way.
I mean, I guess they could claim that it's to pay their drivers, but since when has workers' rights been a hallmark of the American capitalistic society?
Right. Like, I completely support it. But, like, at the same time, it's like, girl, how much of that money is going to the workers and how much of it is going to Uber?
Oh, most of it's going to Uber.
Right.
Trust and believe.
I'd be fine if it was all going to the workers. But at the same time, like, we're canceling food delivery apps.
No more food delivery. We're going to get skinny because we're not going to eat takeout.
But we all know we're going to order it tomorrow. Like, let's be real here.
Please, we're going to order it. Like, we already agreed we're ordering it after this.
Right? Oh my gosh, they really got us by the throat.
They really do. Like, if somebody held a gun to my head and said, you can never order Uber Eats or DoorDash ever again, I'd say, pull the trigger.
Right, we're done. That's it. Sorry, Samantha.
Why even delay the inevitable?
Right. But speaking of
the inevitability. I have not even had a drink yet today.
Not even one drink.
The inevitability of death. Yes, Paul. My grandfather died this week, and I shouldn't be laughing.
My condolences for your loss.
Thank you. We're taking it as a blessing because he was 88. Wow. He had been suffering with dementia for many years. He lived a wonderful life, beat cancer 2 or 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Beat multiple heart attacks. Like, he had a great life, and just the past couple of years with the dementia was not the tea, and so we're going to take it as blessing, and he's at a better place, whether it is heaven, hell, or purgatory, or if he's a ghost, which maybe next week I can get a Ouija board and we'll see if we can contact Jerry.
Ooh, contacting Jerry on the Ouija board.
No, we're not going to do that because, like, definitely Jerry's not going to come through.
All right.
But for a special one time, since he just passed away, we're going to do a shot in memoriam.
All right. And what are we doing a shot of?
We're doing a shot of Powers Irish Whiskey Gold Label, which this is my favorite brand of Irish whiskey because my name's on it.
Yeah, it's your last name, and I assume it was your grandfather's last name as well.
Yes, it was. This was my father's father, and it is also one of the most popular brands of whiskey in Ireland.
Oh, wow. Well, let's hear the people pour these shots. Let's let the people hear us pour these shots. Do one more. Do another one. Do the other one.
I know, because we're not doing big ones because we're going to be drinking wine. I think that's even.
Yeah, that's
Even
fine.
enough.
Whatever. And I don't really like whiskey, but I'm doing this for you, Jerry. All right.
All right.
To Jerry.
To Jerry, rest in peace, Slancha.
Girl, I hate whiskey. Oh, no.
Why is it spicy?
Not even a chaser. Oh, you need some Coca-Cola or something to chase that. I don't know how these straight boys be doing it, like drinking this whiskey straight. No,
well,
ma'am.
the problem with these straight boys is they drink bourbon, which I hate bourbon.
Right? But what is it with straight men and dark liquor? Like, what is going on?
You know, that's a very good question that I don't have an answer for.
Like, I drink rum and Coke all the time, but like also...
But like rum can be
White.
a clear liquor.
Yeah.
White rum. Which I never even realized that till we went out last week and you ordered a rum and Coke and I watched him pour white rum into your rum and Coke. And I was like, oh, it's a clear liquor.
Right, because you usually picture rum as like a darker liquor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of... when I was younger, I drank Bacardi and Coke all the time. And just because like my grandparents had a bottle of it, I was in college and living with them on summers. Mm-hmm. They didn't drink it, and it was Bacardi Gold. Mm-hmm. So that's just what's in my mind.
Period. So, should we get right into it?
Yes. We are no longer doing tarot readings after all of our tries of it. It just wasn't fitting in. But eventually we'll set up Patreon, and we'll do tarot readings on there.
Yeah, party.
So, Paul, let me tell you a story. Today we have a Pennsylvania white wine from Adams County Winery.
Oh.
It is very on the nose.
Okay.
So I'm going to get into more details about it after I read the intro.
All right, I'm ready for the intro. Let's get into it.
A chance meeting soon turned into a raging battle which soaked the Pennsylvania countryside with the blood of the fallen. The corpses of fallen men and horses littered the ground and rotted in the summer heat as the cannons fired and bullets whizzed through the air. A small farming community was caught in the crossfire of a battle which would change history. But even though the battle ended after 3 days, can all of that energy just stop? Or does the battle rage on just under the surface? Let's find out as we discuss the ghosts of Gettysburg.
Okay. See, as soon as she started talking about battles, I knew we're talking about Gettysburg. And you know, I've actually been there before. So
have I.
I have a few like spooky experiences.
You do?
Yeah,
okay.
We could get into that later.
Yeah, after I'm done with the script, I definitely want to hear about your stuff. Because I went for like a day trip when I was coming back from Hershey with friends. And so we just did the tour during the daylight. So nothing spooky. So, Gettysburg is actually the county seat of Adams County. So I saw Adams County Winery and I was like, oh my God. And they had, in the liquor store, they had 3 different ones. I was like, I have to get one. Now which one? And then I saw they had Tears of Gettysburg.
The Tears of Gettysburg wine. Okay, I don't know how I feel about that.
It's just a name. It's just a name. But like, it was so on, like I texted you, I said, it's so on the nose, it's funny.
It is very on the nose.
It is a combination of Céval, Vidal, and Niagara. An award-winning sweet blend has been our hallmark wine since 1988. The pleasantly bold Niagara character gives way to subtle notes of pear and honeysuckle.
Oh my gosh, I love a good fruity wine. I'm so excited. Let me be quiet so they can hear you pop this cork.
Oh, I need to like crank it down, so.
Oh, geez. Okay, she's getting into it. You have to insert it in.
Yeah, which when we have corks in the future, I should probably like do all of this before.
What can you do?
But you know, it's great vamping time.
Right.
And everyone should really love our banter. Weak.
Ooh, that was a weak pop.
Well, I don't know, because it sounds weak to us, but we do it close to the microphone, and when we go back and edit, it sounds really good.
All right, well, period. Well, let's give her a good old pour, see how she sounds.
She smells nice.
Ooh, that smells like straight up grapes. I'm here for this already.
Shit. Just making all the noise today. Paul?
Thank you. Let's give yourself a good old pour. Alrighty, cheers.
Oh.
Ooh.
I don't taste booze.
No, it tastes like straight up grape juice. What's her percentage?
I'm looking. 11.5.
That's 11%?
Jesus.
You gotta be careful with this stuff. Oh no.
Well, I mean, as you will find out, the good people of Gettysburg need something. They need something.
Apparently. But, ooh. Honestly, if you're looking for something that don't taste too boozy, but it's real good. It doesn't
taste, it really does just taste like grape juice.
It's real good.
All right. For our eventual non-American listeners, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania is a town and borough in south central Pennsylvania. It is most notable as the site of the Battle of Gettysburg, the Civil War's bloodiest battle, which actually turned the tide of the war towards an eventual Union victory. For those of you who are unaware, the American Civil War was a conflict fought between the northern or Union states and the southern states, which had attempted to leave the nation as the Confederate States of America over many issues, most notably slavery. Mm-hmm. The battle raged from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, between Confederate General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia and Union General George Meade's Army of the Potomac, with the town and local farms caught in the crossfire. The way this had happened was Lee was attempting to invade the North Meade happened to cut him off in Gettysburg. Mm-hmm. It was totally coincidental that they met here.
Oh, really?
Yes. And after this battle, like I said, it turned the tide of the war, and Lee would be pushed further south and south towards the Confederate capital of Richmond, Virginia.
Huh.
As I had mentioned, that this was the Civil War's bloodiest battle. Between 46,000 and 51,000 men were killed in battle. However, only one civilian was killed.
I think I know that story too. Yep. I assume you're going to tell that story later.
Yes, I am going to tell that story.
I know that story.
And then on November 19th, President Abraham Lincoln delivered his famous Gettysburg Address at the dedication of the Gettysburg National Cemetery. Gettysburg is now the site of the Gettysburg National Military Park, which encompasses the battlefield. And this is perhaps, acre for acre, the most haunted land in the United States.
Really?
Yes. So I'm going to call out my sources right here, right now. My sources are a book called The Ghost of Gettysburg by Mark Nesbitt, and an A&E documentary that was made based on that book. And Mark Nesbitt is a historian who's a former park ranger who worked in Gettysburg National Military Park. Mm-hmm. And he has made a career studying the paranormal in the town.
Really? That would be a cool job.
Yes.
Let me quit my boring job real quick. Get on over to Gettysburg.
But he's written 10 or 8 or between 8 and 10 books.
Oh, so he's put in the work.
About all the ghosts. So I had a plethora of stuff to pick.
Oh, nice.
What I have here is basically a bunch of stories from the documentary and from his first book. And then I had to go and do a little supplemental research for the last story, just because it is one of the most famous to come out of the battle. And I really don't think we would be doing it like the entire story of Gettysburg justice if we didn't come back to that.
Okay.
So we're just going to go location by location that I have here. I have one. Well, that has a couple. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 locations.
8 locations.
8 locations. Wow. And the first one has 2 locations in it, so technically 9.
Wow.
But none of them are particularly long because we're not going to go through the history. It's not going to be so that whole little intro, that was all the history we're going to do, except for the story of one of the ghosts.
Right. This isn't the History Channel, girl.
This is not a history podcast. This is a spooky podcast. So basically, we're just going to... I'll tell as much history as needed for each individual location, which is generally 1 bullet point.
Period.
And then we'll really get into it. So, Paul, are you ready to get started?
I'm ready. Let's go, girls.
So we're going to start with Gettysburg College.
Okay. I know all about the college guys. I've had a few experiences.
with Gettysburg college guys or just college guys in general?
Just in general.
Okay.
I was one myself. Like, I was in a frat. I did the thing.
So, but unlike your college experience, this college is very haunted because it was around during the battle and it was actually requisitioned at various points during the 3-day battle by both armies.
Okay.
Because it is directly adjacent to the military park, which, like I said, that's the main, like, battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
So, and basically, anything in Gettysburg that was standing in 1863 was used as some sort of barracks or field hospital.
Right.
Going back to how many ghosts there were to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the time of the battle, it was known as Pennsylvania College. And the main building was a building called Old Dorm.
Creative.
Very creative. Now Old Dorm is known as Pennsylvania Hall, and it is the main administrative building of the college.
Mm-hmm.
But as one of the largest buildings in Gettysburg at the time of the battle, it was used as a field hospital. And namely, the lower floors were used as, operating rooms. Now, during the Civil War, if you were shot during battle, you were lucky if you got killed by that bullet.
Right. There's probably a lot of suffering.
Yes, because the most common remedy for non-fatal injuries was amputation.
Ooh. We don't know how to cure it, so we're going to cut it right off.
Yeah, because you're not going to, And the extra special thing about amputation at this time, they didn't have anesthetic.
Oh.
So it was like, okay, here's a boot, bite down.
Right. They needed some of that Powers whiskey to get them a little...
they probably did use booze, but they probably used it as, like, antiseptic.
Oh. Yikes.
Yeah, and if that burn's going down as a shot, I don't want to feel it on an amputated limb.
Oh, no. Oh, jeez.
And so there were so many people getting limbs amputated that they were literally throwing the discarded limbs out the window.
Oh my god.
During the documentary, they actually interviewed the chief of campus police. And he said, if you were to come to my campus and dig up the ground around Old Dorm, you'd probably find a lot of severed limbs. No, don't do that because I will arrest you. So this is my PSA to say, don't go to Gettysburg College and try to dig up severed limbs.
It brings up a whole new meaning to It's Raining Men.
Parts of men anyways.
Yeah, just parts.
Just parts.
Not even the important parts either. Just like legs and arms.
Yeah, well, no more hand jobs.
I mean, they're throwing arms out there, so I guess if you got creative.
I mean, yeah, you could make a whole handy monster.
Okay, we need to move on.
We're moving on. On top of the building, there is a cupola. And this was... What? What about a cupola? Cupola?
Not that. I'm just thinking about the handy monster.
Handy monster.
Yeah, just keep going. We're gonna get canceled. We're never gonna get a sponsor. Yeah. This is it. We're done.
It's fine. We'll just be... No, please sponsor us. The cupola was used as a signal point at various times during the battle. So the general would stand up there and he would signal to the troops what to do. Because this is very high ground. It is known that Robert E. Lee used this sort of point to watch the battle and to command and give orders. To this day, students and faculty still report seeing a man in a beard and a gray Confederate uniform pacing back and forth there. So maybe old Bobby is coming back.
Wait, is Bobby Robert E. Lee?
Yeah, like Robert, Bobby is a nickname for Robert.
Okay, I got you.
I don't think he was actually called Bobby in life, but I'm going to call him Bobby because, he fought to preserve slavery.
Yeah, so we're going to emasculate him. I'm here for it.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to come at me in the comments and say the Civil War was over states' rights and not slavery, states' rights was an issue. However, a number of the Southern secession documents directly stated that they did not want slavery to be abolished, and that's why they were leaving.
And that's the team.
Sometimes this man will see a student or faculty member and start to frantically wave and gesture, trying to give orders to them.
So, like, the ghost is doing that? Okay.
From up atop the building, and no matter how many, like, they'll shout back, like, what do you want? And he just doesn't answer.
Right. Imagine, like, you're a drunk college kid and you see some rando just, like, waving. Like...
Yes. And like, maybe it's a residual haunting.
Oh.
Or, I have heard a story about Robert E. Lee was a really skilled tactician in general. I will give him that. But he wasn't always like, I don't know how to put this. Let me put it this way. He had a pet chicken, and at one of the Civil War battles, the pet chicken got loose, and he made all of his subordinate officers take their attention off the battle to help him catch the pet chicken.
He had some other priorities, it sounds
He had some other priorities. And eventually, the pet chicken was killed and served to him for dinner.
Oh, I think I heard that story, yeah.
Which is super sad. Poor chicken.
Right.
The building, like I said, is now the administrative building of the college. And now I'm going to get into the first really spooky story of the night. Mm. One night, 2 administrators were leaving after staying in their office late. They took the elevator down, but despite pressing the button for the first floor, it went straight past it into the basement. Thinking that the elevator was just broken or acting up, they began to hit the first floor button and wondering who was in the basement requesting the elevator come down. When the doors opened to show that the entire basement had turned into a Civil War operating room where various surgeons were operating on soldiers and amputating limbs. Both of the administrators were absolutely horrified and panicked and tried to get the doors to close so that they didn't have to see it. And as they're panicking and freaking out, one of the surgeons looks up and makes direct eye contact with them and starts to gesture at them to come help. Finally, at this point, the doors closed and returned them to the first floor. One of them called campus police, who came to investigate. And when they went into the basement, they found it was perfectly intact, perfectly modern, and no sign at all of what they had seen.
Oh my gosh. Kind of sounds like... So these were college kids that reported?
No, it was 2 administrators.
Oh, okay. More credibility then.
Yes. And actually, in the documentary, the chief of police was the one who responded, and he said, I knew both of these women. They were super level-headed women, not prone to flights of fantasy or making things up. And if they say they saw it, they probably saw it.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, just to see that, and also this happened in summer. Can you imagine the smell?
I can't imagine. Do you think they smelt anything, though? Or do you think they just saw?
I don't know. In a moment of panic, do you smell as well as see? I do know they didn't hear anything. Mm-hmm. It was like a silent movie, but in 3D.
Okay, so maybe they didn't smell thing. Maybe it was more of a sight thing.
But, if you went back, if they had stepped off the elevator and, broke that barrier.
Yeah, the smell probably would have been awful. I mean, people are, losing limbs and things,
See, one day I'm going to work at Gettysburg, and I'm going to, find a way to, jar up the smell and show it off to tourists just to, horrify them.
Oh, my gosh. That sounds terrible.
Exactly, but people have to understand.
I don't know how you would even come up, get that smell. What would you even put in that jar?
Pork and leave it set out in the sun for 3 days.
I like how you knew just right off the bat. You didn't even have to think. You already had this planned. DJ, he already knows what rotting flesh smells like.
I actually don't, and I never want to smell it. I'm actually very sensitive to smells, and if, if I see something in the fridge that's a little too old and I go to throw it away, I won't even smell it, and I'll start gagging at the thought of the smell.
That's wild. Because, anyone who knows you don't gag,
Not when it matters. I don't. So we're going to move on to a Another building on campus. It's called Stevens Hall. Stevens Hall was built right after the war ended in 1865, so 2 years after the battle, but it's still very, very haunted. And it was built as an all-girls preparatory school, and it is now dorms for Gettysburg College. Well, at least at the time of this documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And the first ghost that we're going to be discussing is the ghost of the Blue Boy. So shortly after its founding, 2 students took in a young orphan boy one cold winter night in their 3rd floor room. Like, it was very cold, he was a beggar, and so they were like, we're going to take you and give you a nice warm place to stay. They had him in their room, and while they were in there, the house mother came and knocked on their door. So, and like, this is an all-girls school, they're not allowed to have boys like, ooh, cooties.
Yeah.
This was also like the 1860s or the 1870s.
Right.
When if a man looked at your ankles, that was worse than having sex.
Right. Like those TikToks.
Yeah, which I'm sorry, Paul, like, you're a real hussy because I've seen your ankles many times.
I know, they're just out on display for everyone.
Yep, you and Taylor Swift, both hussies.
Yep, me and Taylor Swift keeping the hussy game alive in 2023.
For the record, I do not think Taylor Swift is a hussy. One of our coworkers remarked that she was one, and it's just so funny.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
So they hid the boy the only place they could think of to hide him, which was on the ledge outside the window.
Girl, that doesn't make a bit of sense.
No, like, so it was a wide ledge, so it was wide enough for him to stand out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, oh, we'll just have him stand there, we'll close the window, we'll close the shade, we'll send the house mother off, and everything will be fine.
Right.
Except the house mother said, I need to see you girls downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And so she took them downstairs, and they had tea, and the girls were horrified to see the minutes dragging to well over an hour.
Oh, so he was staying on that ledge for a while.
And now this is like winter in Pennsylvania, probably during a snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
So finally they return and they rush to the window and they open it. And they rip the window open and they look, and the boy's gone.
He probably fell. Probably froze to death and fell.
Probably. So that's all we really know about the boy when he was alive.
Mm-hmm.
As for his spirit, though, residents report seeing the face of a boy which is completely blue. Which, do you know what happens to the skin when you freeze?
Yeah, it turns blue.
Exactly. And also sometimes residents on the 3rd floor, when it's snowy out, and you know how like you get frost on your windows?
Mm-hmm.
They'll see "Help Me" written from the outside backwards.
Oh my gosh, that's spooky.
Ooh.
Oh, geez.
Poor little blue boy. Can we talk about how like the intention started out so good?
I know, right? Oh, what can you do, I guess, you know?
Also in Stevens Hall, there's a ghost of a girl who was probably a student there when it was an all-girls prep school, and she's fascinated by modern clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And residents will enter the rooms and see her standing there, like holding up a piece of clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And when they say something or she notices them, she'll bolt into like a closet or something,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll chase her, and then she'll just disappear.
Mm-hmm. So she's like interested in her clothes. She's
Yeah,
like, yes, diva, mama.
She's a girly girl, interested in fashion.
Yes, she was gonna
That's
be
cool.
like the next big fashion designer, but you know, in 1860, there wasn't too much for fashion.
No, probably got diphtheria. Maybe dysentery.
Either one. They both start with D's, so why not?
But I mean, diphtheria is like a really, really like... I think it's with the lungs, and dysentery, you like shit yourself to death.
Oh. Huh.
I hope it was diphtheria.
DJ.
I mean, would you rather, like, choke to death or shit yourself to death?
Probably choke. I mean, I'm choking right now.
Yeah, I mean, there have been times when I, you get some bad Taco Bell.
Oh my god.
and then you're like in the bathroom and you can't decide if you're afraid you're going to die or you're hoping to die.
I mean, the choking would probably be quicker, I feel like.
Yeah. And probably a lot less embarrassing.
Yeah, so probably the choking.
All right, Paul. Are you ready to continue our tour to our next location?
Yes.
This location is the Cashtown Inn.
Mm-hmm.
You're laughing. Why? Is that funny? Or are you still choking?
I'm still choking.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to be alive. Just let me live my life. Just keep going with your story.
You've got diphtheria. I've got dysentery.
Oh my god, we're the D&D sisters.
D&D, but not a designated driver between us.
Oh my gosh, I was about to make we're double D sisters or something like we're used to 2Ds. We're the D&D sisters.
Sometimes I'm used to 2 dicks.
That was the D&D joke.
And my initials spelled DP.
Okay, there you go. There you go, kids.
Which has ruined my monograms. Like, I can never get monogram towels.
Oh my god, there's no towels with your initials on them?
No.
Maybe if you lived in what's that studio's name that starts with an H? Oh god, Helix Studios.
Oh my god, if I worked in Helix Studios... Well, first of all, I can't because I'm too old.
You're not too old. They have daddies.
We're going to turn the mic off so that I can murder Paul. Join us next week for an introduction of a new co-host.
Oh my god. I didn't mean you were a daddy. I just meant you weren't too old for Helix.
Please join us on our Patreon where we discuss, the... ethics of Helix Studios and the porn industry.
For our
big porn, not these stars who are out there cranking out on OnlyFans. I respect them and their drive. I'm talking about big porno.
Right, it's gonna be a video essay. It's gonna be 2.5 hours long.
Oh my god, maybe not that long.
Back to Gettysburg.
So we're gonna visit the Cashtown Inn. This is literally an inn, and it was built around 1800. And why is it called the Cashtown Inn? It's because an early innkeeper demanded cash for rooms rather than the standard of trading goods for rooms.
Okay.
So in the early 1800s, as you're traveling, and it's either just on the other side of Harrisburg from Philadelphia, or it is between Harrisburg and Philadelphia.
Okay.
Either way, Gettysburg was on one of the main trade routes, so people would come to stay, and a lot of them would be peddlers, and they'd be like, "Oh,
I'll give you a chicken for a duck.
A chicken for a room."
Right, there you go.
But this guy was like, "Nope, cash," which, that's a good early business model.
Right. Cash money only.
But as I said, since it was on a main trade route, during the battle, it was on a supply line. So it was used by Confederate generals as quarters during the battle, so that they could monitor the supplies coming in to their army.
Mm-hmm.
Room 4 is one of the most active. The apparition of a Confederate soldier is consistently seen there on the landing just outside. And actually, I am going to pull up a picture because there is photographic evidence.
Well, while you're pulling that up, I do have a bone to pick with cash-only businesses these days. Because if you're a bar and you're only taking cash, what are you doing? Take my card. I don't want to have to go to an ATM just to drink at your bar. But maybe in 1860, cool.
Are you adding Lucky's right now?
No, I'm adding every bar that makes us pay cash only.
Well, I mean, at this time, they didn't have credit.
No, back in 1860, it's fine. But in 2023, when I only have my credit card on me, Samantha. And plus, I'm buying less drinks if you're making me pay cash. I know we're getting very off topic here, but it just needed to be said. It needed to be put out in the world. I'm sorry.
This is the off-topic episode.
Yes, we might have to do Gettysburg Part 2 because we have a lot to discuss today. And I know it's probably not that spooky today, but the kids need to know. They need to know about Uber Eats. Okay, back to the ghosts.
Here's our photographic aid. So there's literally a picture taken of the front of the inn, and room 4 was not occupied, but there's a face peering out of it, and there were no objects passing, like no cars passing by and no clouds passing over that would have caused a reflection on the window.
Okay, that's a spooky picture. And as usual, you can see it on our Instagram.
And I have another one. This one's... It's a little blurrier, but it's a little spookier because it looks like a skeleton.
Oh, that one is a lot spookier. Oh, that almost looks like a skeleton in like a wedding outfit or something. Ooh, that one's scary.
I'm just like finding all sorts of them now.
Ooh, that one's scary too. Y'all need to pull your car over, go to our Instagram and look at these pictures, because this is spooky, okay? Go to Crypts and Corks Pod at Instagram.com. Do it while you're driving.
Heck. Oh my god. And that's how you create ghosts.
Exactly. We're keeping our industry alive.
Alrighty. And now we're going to head back to the battlefield itself.
All right.
I believe it was at some point in history, a group of visiting foreign dignitaries was visiting the battleground. For anyone who has not been to Gettysburg and you think, oh, I'm just going to walk the battleground, like, it would be great. I did the driving tour, and it took 6 hours.
Yeah, it's a big battlefield.
It's huge because it literally encompassed the entire town and all the areas surrounding it.
Yeah, it's huge.
And like the military park is just the part where most of the fighting happened.
Right.
Not even all of it, most of it.
Right.
So they were being driven around. Mm-hmm. Which, if you go, I highly, highly recommend drive.
Oh, for sure.
So the Park Service, which runs the military park, did arrange a specially guided tour with one of their park rangers. The group stopped at Little Round Top, which has a great view of almost the entire battlefield. This is one of the highest vantage points, and you can sit up there and you can be like, this is where this happened, this is where that happened, which is perfect. And they're standing up there and they look down onto the battlefield itself, and they see an entire infantry in perfectly accurate uniform performing battle maneuvers. And these visitors are delighted. What a great touch to this visit. Mm-hmm. Giving this like little extra visual aid. So they watch and then they get back in the car and they drive off, and eventually the tour ends and they return to the park headquarters, and they go to the head of the park itself and they thank him profusely for arranging the reenactment that day. Mm-hmm. And the head of the park was horrified because he didn't arrange a reenactment, and he actually prevented reenactors from entering the park that day. Mm-hmm. So as to give the visitors an uninterrupted. Because the thing about Gettysburg is like volunteers who dress up will just like be on the battleground and like giving spiels.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like if you go to Europe and you have those people selling keychains on the side of like some street in Paris. Mm-hmm. They're kind of like that, where it's like, and this is where this general was shot.
Right. Exactly. Like in that episode of The Office.
Yes.
Where they go to Gettysburg.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Eventually, Paul, you and I will go to Gettysburg, and we will do the tour during the day and then do a ghost tour at night.
Oh, we'll start a YouTube channel, do vlogs. Yeah. It'll be a party.
Exactly. But this wasn't a one-time thing. People still all the time see ghostly regiments. They just appear out of nowhere, and they do their maneuvers, and then they disappear. There's phantom cannon fire and gunfire, phantom bonfires at night.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's one story about a park ranger who, she was off duty, and she was, a lot of the park rangers, a lot of the historic homes in the military park are sort of given to the rangers as like housing, as part of their job. And she was off duty and she was driving to her house, and she saw in an area called the wheat field, called the wheat field because at the time it was a wheat field.
Makes sense.
She saw bonfires. And so she got her radio and she called in to the on-duty ranger and said, hey, like, I think this is also area of like beautiful woods and mountains, so like you have hikers and campers, And she's like, hey, I think somebody got confused in the dark and didn't know they wandered in the park. And they set up camp. Can you, like, just go let them know they're on parkland?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, sure thing. And she comes into the office the next day and she's like, how'd it go? And he goes, no one was out there. I think you're confused. And she's like, no, I saw this.
Mm-hmm.
And then she drove out there and she walked it and there was no evidence of bonfires whatsoever.
That's wild.
But the thing is, like, the area where she saw them was used as, like, nighttime encampment by the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Where they would make bonfires.
See, that doesn't surprise me. Like, none of this surprises me.
No,
there
it's
has
not
to be, like,
it's
ghosts.
not surprising. Like, 3-day battle, like, let's go with the night, see if in 50,000 dead, like, I'd be shocked if there weren't ghosts.
Exactly.
And I was talking to my dad on the way over here, and he was like, I'm just pissed off at all the ghost shows that you watch, and it's all about angry, evil Confederate ghosts. And I'm like, well, I don't think they're evil, but I don't doubt that they're upset because after the battle, the Northern soldiers were buried in the cemetery and the Confederates were just dumped in pits.
Right. And I hope they stay mad.
Oh, Jesus. So now we're going to move off of Little Round Top into the area called Devil's Den.
Ooh, okay. Spooky.
It is a rocky hill, like lots of boulders, between Little and Big Round Top, which are two hills.
Mm-hmm.
It is called that because early settlers believed a giant snake that they called the Devil lived there. It was a snake they called the Devil. It was not the literal devil.
Okay.
But that he lived there, thus Devil's Den.
Okay.
So this did not come from the battle.
Okay.
It was initially used by Union forces to give counterfire on the Confederates, but they were driven out by the 1st Texas Regiment, who then used it as a location to sharpshoot the Union forces on Little and Big Round Top.
Okay.
Because these are like huge boulders.
Right, right.
And so very easy to like duck behind them and shoot from behind them.
Makes sense.
So the thing about Devil's Den is many people have reported seeing a scraggly man with an unkempt beard, no shoes, and a big floppy hat.
Oh my god, he sounds like a wizard.
A wizard, or a lot of these came out of the 70s, or a hippie. I kept saying hippie in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So one woman was taking photographs in the area when she felt watched. She put the camera down to see a man was right beside her. And he pointed to an area and said, what you're looking for is over there.
Mm-hmm.
And she thanked him and she turned around to take the picture. And she turned back again to thank him and he had vanished.
Mm-hmm.
And so she went to the Park Service and she described him. Another photographer came to the area and took a picture of the area. It was shocked to see a man in the picture, despite the fact that he was alone when he took the picture.
Spooky.
And once again, it was the man, unclean clothes, shaggy beard, floppy hat, no shoes. Our old pal Mark Nesbitt took an artist and his son to Devil's Den. Each of them, all 3 of them had cameras. Halfway up the slope, all 3 of the cameras began to malfunction. And as they made it to the top of the slope, to the triangular field, which kind of borders it, the cameras began to work again, just miraculously. And on another occasion, Nesbitt was asked to do a TV presentation for Halloween. And they were doing it in the Devil's Den area. And as they were preparing, a almost brand new video camera, which had never malfunctioned before, just quit working.
So what's going on here with the cameras? So
Nesbitt in his book actually has a theory for this. So as I said, this was definitely occupied by the 1st Texas Regiment. And at this time, Texas was on the extreme outskirts of the U.S., but also the Confederacy. And so my brother lives in Texas, and it takes him long enough to get here, and we live in the age of jet planes. So it was pretty, and you had to march So if you're marching from Texas to Pennsylvania, you're not going to be too clean, and you're probably not going to have shoes.
Right.
And then it's really hard to get new stuff out to you.
Right.
So that sort of explains the appearance
of that man. That weird man.
But also, right after the Civil War, there's a photograph taken of the corpse of a Confederate soldier propped up amongst the rocks, like he had just fallen and died there.
Mm-hmm.
But a photograph historian actually discovered that the body was also photographed on the main battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
And so the theory is that a photographer was just using this Confederate corpse as a model and dragging it around. So, this man is very territorial over the area, and it may be because his corpse was just paraded around the battleground for pictures.
Yeah, I would be too. You gotta ask for pictures, screw.
So now we're going to move to the Daniel Lady Farm.
Ooh, I love a good farm.
Like I mentioned before, anything that was standing in 1863 was used either as barracks or field hospital, and the Daniel Lady Farmhouse was used as a field hospital. Paul, remind the listeners at home, what was the main remedy used during the Civil War?
Amputation.
So Nesbitt was called in to investigate. The owners found their floor covered in puddles of a red liquid.
I wonder what that was.
And so they were all pretty horrified. He's like, okay, well, we'll have to bring somebody in to test this. And a couple hours later, he was called back, and the people were even more terrified because all the liquid was gone, and there was no trace of it.
That's so weird. Girl, sounds like maybe some phantom blood.
Definitely some phantom blood, maybe some ectoplasm.
Okay.
Swamp gas.
Okay.
That was a joke.
Oh, okay.
Because people were always like, it's not a UFO, it's swamp gas.
Oh, okay. I got you.
The only swamp gas I've ever seen was Donald Trump.
Right. Also, swamp gas would be a really good name for a strain of weed. I don't smoke, but that would be a really interesting name for a strain of weed.
Maybe we'll have to start a line of Crypts and Corks weed.
Oh my god, we're just venturing out everywhere.
Yeah,
we're
setting up an empire. Now we're going to go to Gettysburg National Cemetery. This was established in the immediate aftermath of the battle as a final resting place for the Union soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned before, the Confederate soldiers were dumped in mass graves. For many years, if you would walk by the cemetery at night and looked in, you would see the ghost of a cavalry officer walking amongst the trees and graves.
Mm-hmm.
Most notably, it was in the area around the grave of Captain William Miller. During the battle, Miller and his 3rd Pennsylvania Cavalry were ordered to remain on the flank of the Confederate cavalry. The Confederate cavalry was trying to Robert E. Lee wanted to do a grand push to try and take out the Union Army. He sent the cavalry in to get rid of the cavalry force because the cavalry, they're on horses, so they're higher up.
Mm-hmm.
So their job was to knock out the Union cavalry, and then the infantry, which are the foot soldiers, could charge in.
Right.
Miller was on the side of this, and he realized he could do a lot of damage to the cavalry if he attacked from the side, because they weren't paying attention to him. So, he decided to disobey direct orders and have his regiment charge straight into the side of the cavalry, which they did, and forced the Confederate cavalry back, because they had no idea what was going on. 34 later, Miller would finally be awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military honor for his actions.
You said 34 years later?
Yes. Now remember, he directly went against orders, so.
Huh. I
Which normally you would get court-martialed and possibly thrown in jail or discharged. So that's probably why. But, like, his effects had huge...
repercussions.
Good repercussions.
Yeah,
Good repercussions. Because this battle was constantly... The Union got ahead, the Confederacy got ahead. The Union got ahead, the Confederacy got ahead. Like, up until this point, like, it was... So the Union entered the war really strong, and then Robert E. Lee took over, and then the Union started to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this was as part of Robert E. Lee trying to invade the North.
Mm-hmm.
So, not good.
Right.
After his death, he was buried in Gettysburg National Cemetery, and he is the only Medal of Honor recipient to be buried there. So during the 70s, however, it was discovered that his tombstone did not distinguish that he had a Medal of Honor. As I mentioned, this is the highest honor that a military officer or soldier can get. Mm-hmm. And if you receive it, it should be on your final resting place.
Mm-hmm.
So they got rid of the old tombstone and gave him a new one with the words Medal of Honor written on it in gold.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, the ghost went away.
Talk about posthumous, getting what you want type gig.
Well, he did get it very late in life, and he only was alive for a couple years before he died.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if I waited 34 years for my just desserts, I would want it on my tombstone, too.
Right, exactly. I mean, so would I, like anyone would.
Now we're going to move to Servants Old-Time Photos.
Okay. Is that a place?
Yes.
Okay.
So nowadays, it's one of those places where you go in and you dress up in costume and you pose and they take your picture and it comes out in sepia.
Mm-hmm.
And then you buy a ridiculously overpriced photo package.
Okay. Makes sense.
Which we are definitely doing that when we go there.
Oh, God. Not that.
Do it for the grandpa.
I'll do it for the Insta.
But at the time of the battle, this building was used to house the body of General John Fulton Reynolds, as he later reposed after he was killed in battle.
Mm-hmm.
And General Reynolds was actually a very important guy in the battle. He was actually the one who convinced General Meade to face the Confederate Army head-on in Gettysburg, rather than letting the Confederate... Because there were a couple Union militias in Gettysburg. Mm-hmm. And so the Battle of Gettysburg really could have been a small skirmish. Mm-hmm. And then they pushed further in the countryside and took on the Union Army. Reynolds convinced Meade, like, no, we got to meet them head on now. Mm-hmm. So very important. And he was very beloved. Like, his death was a huge blow to the Union Army.
Okay.
So his body laid in repose there, and one night 2 tourists were walking through town, and they were walking by the building, and they looked in the window where they saw this tableau, where it was a candlelit room, and the body of a Union officer was laid out on a table, and a woman in black was mournfully praying beside him. Mm-hmm. And so they stopped and they looked at it, and they thought it was reenactors or maybe wax models, and they're like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then they left. Well, a short time later, they were walking past, and the window was completely black. Mm-hmm. But the shop was still open. Mm-hmm. So they went inside and they asked the proprietor, like, hey, like, what happened to, like, this great scene you had next door? Mm-hmm. The proprietor said, what are you talking about? And it's like, oh, like, we walked past this window and in this room, da-da-da-da. They described what they saw, and the proprietor said, that's impossible. That room's sealed off.
Oh, that's crazy. See, it's lots of that residual haunting, would you call that? Lots of residual hauntings.
So the really cool thing about Gettysburg is you have intelligent hauntings where, like, the ghosts interact with you, but you also have these residual hauntings.
Yeah, you have the whole spectrum.
So it is a great mix.
Nice.
And on to our final spot, the Jenny Wade house.
Ooh.
This house, which is now a museum, is named after Jenny Wade. Jenny Wade never actually lived here. Her sister, Georgia, lived. Mm-hmm. During the battle, Jenny's mother, Mary, packed up the family and took them from their house near the battle to the home of Georgia, her eldest daughter, hoping it would be safer. It was a little more in town. However, spilled into the town directly around the house. In fact, the house was struck by over 150 bullets during the battle.
Girl, I hope they had insurance.
I don't think insurance was a thing in 1860. Well, not for normal people.
Well, I hope they covered the expenses for fixing the hose.
We will get to that.
Okay.
During the first day of the battle, Jenny gave water and aid to the Union soldiers around the house. The following morning, she was in the house's kitchen making bread for the soldiers. She was kneading dough when a stray bullet entered the house, pierced 2 doors, struck her in the back, and ripped through her heart, killing her instantly.
See, that's crazy. The definition of wrong place and wrong time. And I'm pretty sure I've heard that story before.
Yes, you would have, because she was the only civilian killed in the battle.
Right, that's crazy. You're just kneading bread and minding your own business, and then boom, dead.
However, she is hugely respected. Her grave in Evergreen Cemetery has an American flag flying over 24 hours a day. This is an honor shared by only one other woman, Betsy Ross.
Oh, wow.
Who designed the flag.
Right.
And speaking of honor, the nation actually ended up giving a pension to her mother after the fact, because they decided that because she was making bread for the soldiers, she was serving the army. Therefore, she was entitled to a military pension.
Oh, that's so nice.
And actually, fun fact, the day after the battle ended, on July 4th, Mary Wade, her mother, finished baking the dough that Mary was kneading when she died and made 15 loaves of bread for the Union's army.
Okay, that is quite the story.
That's a little gross. That part's a little gross, but it's patriotic. See, that's my America. That's my America.
Right.
Bread for troops. That's my America.
Just ignore the blood from the person you killed, won't it?
Oh, no. Like, she was kneading it, and the bullet got stuck in her corset. So it didn't, go through her heart. She just kind of bled out the back.
Oh.
Well, no, she might not even have, well, I guess she did bleed. I'll get to that in a second.
Okay, get to it. Let's go.
But, when you're pierced to the heart, sometimes there's not a lot of blood because your heart stops instantly.
Oh, that's true. Your heart is what pumps your blood through you.
Yeah, so sometimes, your heart stops immediately. You don't bleed a lot.
That makes sense.
I'm not in forensics, so I can't tell you.
Yeah, we didn't go to school for math.
So there's another part of the story. We're going to do the other half. Jenny at the time was engaged to Johnson Jack Skelly, who was fighting in the war. He did not fight in the battle because he was injured a few days before the battle in a different battle. However, he sent word of his injury via an old friend, Wesley Culp, who was born in Gettysburg, but who had moved to West Virginia and was serving in the Confederate 2nd Virginia Infantry.
Okay.
So Jack asked Culp, hey, if you ever make it to Gettysburg, will you please, tell Jenny I love her if I don't make it? However, Culp never did make it to the message because he did make it to Gettysburg, but he was killed in battle, coincidentally, on his uncle's farm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the battleground, there is Culp's farm, and he was killed there. And his corpse kind of went missing because his sister still lived in the area, and they don't know whether they took the body and buried it in the local cemetery or buried it on the farm or buried it somewhere else.
Right.
Because he was an enemy combatant.
Right.
But he was from there. How weird is that?
That is weird.
And unfortunately, there is double sadness. So not only did this message not reach Jenny because she was killed in the battle and then Wesley was killed in the battle, but Jack also died on July 12th, never learning of Jenny's death. But they are laid to rest very near to each other in Evergreen Cemetery.
Oh, that's nice.
As I mentioned before, the cemetery, not the cemetery, the house is now a museum and is preserved as it would have appeared around the time of the battle, including the famous bullet hole.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen that in, like, brochures and things.
Yeah, you're actually encouraged to go and stick your finger through the bullet hole.
See, I don't know about that.
There's like, so some people say if you do it, you have like a paranormal, cyclical response to it, like you'll get messages or you'll see something. Other people say that if you do it, I think it's like an old wives' tale where if your finger fits through the hole, you'll soon find the man you're going to marry.
Girl, find me that hole, okay?
But I think this is like one of those things where like the old wives' tale where like if you light a candle and you stand in front of a mirror in the flame, you'll either see a man or a casket, signifying whether you'll get married soon or die alone.
Oh, see, I don't like that one as much.
No, A, it's too Bloody Mary-esque. B, I've tried it. I didn't see nothing. I didn't see nothing. Of course, I did see a TikTok earlier this week, and it was like, the whole thing is like how to do palm reading, like step by step. Mm-hmm. And it was talking about your marriage line. And it was like, if your marriage line is really short, you may never get married. And I looked at my hand and I was like, I don't even have a marriage line because it's supposed to be here.
Oh my god.
Here, let me see your palm.
That's rough. Do I have a marriage line, hopefully?
Yeah, you have two.
Oh, I'm gonna get married twice, everyone. Tell your friends.
Yeah, but yours is real short too. Well, I guess that one goes a little longer.
Y'all can come to my first wedding, and, well, no, never mind. Y'all are coming to my second wedding. The second one's gonna be in Cabo, bitch. I'm ready.
Oh my god.
All right.
My first wedding's gonna be in the Jenny Wade house.
The Jenny Wade house?
Yes, specifically, I want to be married in the kitchen where she was killed because the bloodstains are still on the floor.
Oh, really? That makes a nice little accent.
You can go and see the bloodstains. Her Jenny still fell. And as I had mentioned before, the hole from the bullet which killed her.
Oh, wow. See, that's the cool thing about Gettysburg is you can go and you can see all these places, and a lot of these, like, inns and things, like, they're now beds and breakfasts, and you can, like, stay in these haunted rooms and things.
Or there are a lot of places where there's a lot of buildings that have signs out front that say Gettysburg Museum. Mm-hmm. But they're really privately run museums because there's just so much paraphernalia around the town that they've just spread it out and people just buy these historic homes and set up museums on their first floor. Mm-hmm. When I was there, I went to one and they had all sorts of military stuff. Mm-hmm. From the Civil War, from other wars. They had a whole room of Nazi paraphernalia. I did not get good vibes in there. Like, I thought I was going to throw up in there. Mm-hmm. And then I really liked it because I love JFK. They had an entire room of JFK stuff that was bought off of JFK's secretary who retired in Gettysburg.
Huh, that's interesting.
That was super cool. Like, they had the flag from Marine One. They had a pair of his boxers.
Ooh.
They had a shirt. They had a tie. They had menu cards written on it from Jackie. Mm-hmm. It was really cool. We're definitely going to have to go back there.
Yeah, we'll do an episode in Gettysburg for sure.
Maybe that will be our 1 year. We go to Gettysburg and we record there.
That sounds cool. I'm here for it. Let's do it.
We'll, like, do a couple days, doing ghost tours, see if we can find anything, and then record while we're there.
You heard it here first. Next October, Crypts and Corks in Gettysburg.
Okay. As for what happens in the Jenny Wade house, guests will feel cold breezes inexplicably. They will also see a transparent figure of a young woman going about the house. Mm-hmm. Because in Gettysburg, it's really not that weird to see somebody walking around in Civil War attire. However, when she is see-through...
Yeah, that's spooky.
Also, the kitchen is no longer used because it is a museum, but people will smell the scent of fresh bread.
See, that's not a bad thing.
See, that is the most delightful, spooky thing I've ever heard.
Oh yeah, bitch, make my house smell like bread. I'm here for it.
All right, Paul. You know what? Before I do the outro, why don't you tell me about your spooky experiences in Gettysburg?
Okay, so when I was in Gettysburg, I was with my dad and, like, his, like, fiance, who is now his wife, and my brother and my now stepbrother, and we went and we did a ghost tour, and they drove us, like, out to this, like, farm area, right? And there was, like, so they gave us dowsing rods and, like, that thing. I forget what it's called, but it's the one where it goes through the radio stations really fast.
Spirit box.
Yeah, they gave us a spirit box and an infrared camera and everything. So there was one point where like we were out in the field and I was using the dowsing rods and like I was actually getting answers. Like I was asking if it was like a Confederate soldier, like, are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. I was getting answers. And there was another group like far away from us and they had the thermal camera, right? Mm-hmm. And as we were getting answers, we stopped getting answers and we go back and we like the people with the thermal cameras tells us there was like another figure out there they could see and it was like standing by us for a while and then it walked away. So it's like crazy that like I was getting answers on the dowsing rods and then they actually captured like this weird figure standing by us like on their thermal camera.
See, and stuff like that happens. There is a video, it's like if you like type in Gettysburg ghosts on Google, and one of the things that will come up under videos is like it's called the best video evidence of the existence of ghosts.
Yeah.
Because it's like dusky and it's a video of the tree line and you can see these white misty figures walking through the trees.
Right. That's cool. And there's like another instance, like when we were in the barn and we were using the spirit box and we were like actually getting intelligent answers through the spirit box from like, I'm pretty sure I asked if it was a Confederate soldier and it said yes. And it was like responding to my answers. And like, I was spooked. And to this day, like my dad, no one will talk about it anymore after that. I think it low-key spooked them and they're scared to talk about it. Like, but to this day, that's not the only experience that makes me a believer in all of this, but it's like one of the experiences. And it's like crazy because this is just like a podunk ghost tour they probably do every night in Gettysburg.
Oh my god, like there's so many, like when I was there were so many like signs for different ones and like...
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you go to Gettysburg, that's what you're there for. You're there for the history and you're there for the ghosts. Yes. Like, it's such a cool place.
And when we go also, not a lot of people know this, but Dwight and Mamie Eisenhower lived in Gettysburg after his presidency.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They bought a house on the battlefield right before he was elected president, and Mamie spent all 8 years he was president like restoring it because it was like an old house. And then post-presidency, they moved in, but they both lived there until their deaths, respectively.
I wonder if they had any experiences.
I don't know if they had any experiences. I think they might have, but don't quote me on that. But apparently their house is haunted by the Eisenhowers now.
Oh, okay, cool, period.
And because it's part of the battleground, for like an extra fee, you can take a tour of that.
Oh.
So we should do that too to see if we can find Mamie Eisenhower. Ooh. Ask her if she really liked pink as much as everyone says she did.
See, I don't know nothing about these presidents or like any of their
Mamie Eisenhower
wives.
liked pink and Ike liked golf.
Wow, your typical hetero couple. They probably did missionary every Wednesday.
Oh, I really don't want to think about that.
All right.
So let me do my outro. In his Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln stated, "We cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, far above our power to add or detract. The blood spilled across the battlefield and Gettysburg itself has indeed consecrated it as some of the most revered land in the United States. But what if the memory of those 3 horrific days which saved the Union aren't the only thing that remains? Whether the restless and tortured souls of the dead or the lasting legacy of the battle, there is an aura which surrounds Gettysburg to this day."
Period. There truly is an aura there and lots of remaining energies and all sorts of things. Yeah, you just
go there and it feels different.
Mm-hmm.
Just, like, not bad, but different.
Right. Yeah, so if you're ever in the Pennsylvania area, be sure to hit up Gettysburg if you're looking for a spooky experience.
Yeah, and if you like amusement parks, it's only like an hour or 2 away from Hershey Park.
Which is awesome.
Or chocolate. I only go for the chocolate.
Right. Hershey Park is amazing. You have to go there if you've never been.
All right, Paul, this was a pretty good episode.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a lot of fun this episode. Yeah. A lot of this information I knew just like growing up around the area. This is like the basic stuff they tell you in elementary school.
Like if you're from Pennsylvania, I'm sorry, this is 8th grade history class, but more fun.
Right.
If you're not from Pennsylvania, see, Pennsylvania's kind of cool.
Right, we're interesting. Taylor Swift was born here. You're welcome.
Yes, she was. Where was she born in Pennsylvania?
I should know that. I'm a big Swiftie for not knowing that.
Hey, I just sent you a TikTok last minute, that Taylor Swift Ghosty sweatshirt that I think we need.
We'll get it one day. I want to say she was born in Reading, Pennsylvania, but...
West Reading.
Period. That? See, I did know. I didn't think I knew, but I did.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a little bit north of Gettysburg.
Period. So stop by Taylor Swift's hometown, see the ghosts in Gettysburg.
While I'm in here, let's set the record straight as where Gettysburg is. And
it's like by Harrisburg, right?
It's by Harrisburg.
Girl, I didn't go to school for geography, and I know this, I think.
But I'm just like, is it like between Philadelphia and Harrisburg, or is it between Harrisburg and...
I think it's between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh? Maybe? You know what? Girl, it don't matter. Who cares?
Yeah, I don't care because this is Wikipedia film.
You know, if you're at home, just Google it yourself.
Just Google it, and this is the one time in the comments you can call me knuckle-headed... What is it from Elf? Cotton-headed Nicky Muffins.
Yeah. Call DJ all the slurs you can. You'll get points for every slur you call DJ in the comments. All right, DJ.
Okay, it is not between Philadelphia and Harrisburg because it's actually south of both of those. But it is along a major highway, so we'll do a live show there one day.
Period. Sounds good.
All right, Paul, anything for the greater good?
No, just keep it spooky this Halloween season. Well, by the time this comes out, Halloween...
this will be our first November episode.
Well, keep it spooky in your November. Keep it spooky all the time.
Spooky season is all year round.
Exactly.
Hope you had a good Halloween.
Right. I know we will.
And, as always, keep your crypts tight.
And your corks loose.
Bye.
Bye.